Okay, I've pulled this engine out 3 times because of this transmission engine combination. Now, we've came to the conclusion that we think the main problem of this not working properly, and when I say that, we're talking about the transmission shifting, is 2, possibly 3 factors. 1, you have to dial in the bell housing, and we're going to go over that. And then 2, the bell housing that the owner of the vehicle purchased is some universal bell housing that will fit 398 different engines and transmission combinations and doesn't work on this particular combination. And then we also bought parts from, or actually I didn't buy the parts, the owner bought the parts from another company called American Powertrain that has these throw-out bearings that you got to shim out and shim in and do all this exotic, you know, high-tech crap to it to make everything work. And what we have done is we are now going to take all of the American Powertrain stuff off, everything, even the flywheel. We are now going to rely on a company called Modern Driveline in Caldwell, Idaho, right up the road here, the next state up. Short is MDL, Modern Driveline. And I have went over this with them specifically in detail several hundred times. And from what they explain on this particular setup, which is a ZZ6 engine, cast iron block, this is not an aluminum block, this is not an LS block, this is an old school Chevy style block. We got an LS transmission, which is a Magnum 6-speed, a T56 Magnum 6-speed. Now, in my opinion, that transmission shouldn't even be in this car with this engine. That transmission does not belong with a carbureted, old school Chevy style engine that has 405 horsepower. That transmission should be hooked up to an LS fuel injection drivetrain that is specifically made for, but the owner already purchased it. He claims that he didn't want it, that Jake's talked him into buying it, Jake's Automotive, and that's why he got it. And that has been the holdup of getting this car running for almost 2 years, would you say, or 3 years?
Long time.
This car's been in this, actually, I've done everything to this car but paint it and do the drivetrain. And the drivetrain situation's been going on for 3 years. And when I say it's been going on, we're talking about ordering the complete engine, ordering the transmission, all of the transmission parts. We went through this through the COVID thing. So this is going on year 3 of trying to even get the car running. So this is the final attempt of my friend Pete trying to make this transmission engine combination work. Now this guy, Paul, over at MDL, claims that everything will work, no problem, and all this other crap. I've already got everything unhooked, ready to pull the engine out. And another thing that I want to go ahead and explain to you, I am not just going to do this and then say, hey, it runs and drives like all these other YouTube videos do, because that's the situation when you run into issues like this and you find these how-to videos on YouTube. They never show you the end product where the car's actually running and driving. They only show you how to do the job, and then that's the end of it. So you don't even know if they did it right or not because you never see the end product. So when we get done with this, and if everything works out, we are literally going to drive it up and down the street and make sure that everything works and shifts and goes in reverse and everything else. That's another situation, is if you look right here at this solenoid, this relay. This relay was purchased from American Powertrain, and that is a relay that they sell for the reverse solenoid on this transmission. So it goes from the solenoid and then it gets power from the brake pedal, and when you push the brake in, it's supposed to spring release the solenoid so you can put it in reverse. That doesn't work. So for that relay and a pigtail and some miscellaneous wires, that was like 180 bucks. We'll be throwing in the trash. We tried to put it in reverse the last time, it wouldn't go in reverse. So, I'm going to get the engine out of the vehicle. We're going to separate the transmission. I'm going to show you all the junk that we have. And then when the MDL stuff gets here, we'll go over all that. And then I'll take you step-by-step procedure of what's going on. And we will see if this thing runs and drives. So let me get the motor and tranny out. And then we're going to go over this in detail. I know I'm not the only one that's ever ran into this issue, I can tell you that, just by all of the stuff that I've researched. And we're not talking just the engine and trunk, we're talking pilot shaft bushings. You have to have special pilot shaft bushings to make this situation up. You have to have a special bell housing and clutch plates, pressure. It's not like just bolting a 4-speed Munsing transmission on it. It's really just a big clusterfuck of a deal. So let me go ahead and get this out, and then once we get it out, we will be back. Alright, I got the motor and the transmission out of the vehicle. If you look at this engine, you can't even tell it's a brand new engine. I'm telling you, this has been going on for a while, people. You can't even tell that this is a brand new transmission, but believe it, this doesn't even have 10 feet on it. So I'm going to go ahead and dismantle the transmission from the engine, and everything that's inside this transmission bell housing, including this shifter plate, this relocator shifter plate, is American powertrain. I put this in the car 3 times. This does not work. This combination that you are looking at does not work. This thing right here, this is called a quick draw. This is a quick draw bell housing that American powertrain sells. It is a universal bell housing that is for, I don't know how many General Motors combination engine transmissions you can think of. Now let me go ahead and explain something to you about this particular transmission and this engine combination. To make this transmission work, you have to dial in the bell housing. Now when I talk to a lot of people, they've never even heard of that before. I never heard of that. But the tolerance on this pilot shaft with the roller bearing that it has is like 0.04 thousandths. That means if it's twisted one way or the other within 0.05 or 6 thousandths or whatever the tolerance is, it will not work. The transmission will not work at all, and that's what we've been running into. Another thing we've been running into is right down here, you can see the lines hanging out. That is the American powertrain clutch throwout bearing and clutch setup. That, I can't get that to work at all. The combination in here of this high performance, I'm going to go ahead and say that high performance situation that is not GM spec, that means General Motors did not design it. Somebody decided to go ahead and design their own throwout bearing and say, hey, this is our high performance part and it's going to work for you type deal. You have to shim that out. They give you all these shims and you got to put shims behind it, and you got to measure the bell housing from the fingers on the pressure plate to the outside of the bell housing, and then you got to measure from the face of your transmission to the end of throwout bearing, and it's just a complicated situation. It can take hours to do that, hours. And if you don't get it right, you are screwed. And I'm telling you, that's the story. You're screwed. The reason you're screwed is because then you got to pull all this out again, and you got to figure out what's going on. Here's another situation with this transmission and engine combo. Let me go ahead and refresh everybody. This is not an LS engine. This is an LS transmission. This is an old school Chevy block, one-piece rear main seal engine crankshaft. So we are taking parts that don't belong to parts and Frankensteining them together, making a Frankenstein monster. Now here's another thing about this situation I was going to tell you, is that you got pilot shaft bushings and bearings. You have to make sure that you use the accurate, precise, right bushing that goes in this crankshaft, or you're screwed. You'll have to take it apart. There's so many complicated situations to use a combination like this on an engine when all the owner had to do is get a Borg-Warner 4 or 5 speed or a Munsing 4 or 5 speed, and it would have bolted right up and been down the road. We're not going to sit here and complain about what the owner should have done and what he did wrong. What we're here for is to show you the faults of this action. This is what's going on. We're showing you, because I know people out there, I'm not the only one that's had this problem. There's a lot of people out there that have ran into this issue, and I am here to show you that this is bullshit, that they shouldn't even be selling this and advertising it to work, because all it's making you, all right, the car owner do is spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Now the owner's already got $1,800 in all this bullshit that we're going to throw in the trash. He's already got $1,800 that's going in the trash. Now, on top of that, he's got to spend another $2,700 to go ahead and gamble again. To go ahead and pull that handle on, you got it, the jackpot machine, and hope he hits home base. I hope he gets a home run on it. I've watched dozens of videos on this, and every single video that you watch, I've researched everything. When you watch videos on this, they never show you the end product where the car's running. All they show you with a big smiley face, they got the smiley face going, and look at my parts, and they got the banners in the background, and this is how you do it, and this is what you want, and it's so easy and so simple. And in reality, it's a fucking nightmare. Fucking nightmare. So we're going to go ahead and dismantle all these pieces. We're going to go through it, and I am going to show you the real story about how all this works out. And hopefully, I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you the knowledge that you need so you don't end up like this guy. Is we finally got all the parts in to attempt this little venture one more time. Now I haven't opened all the parts. We're not going to open any parts until we actually need them. So when we get to those parts, we'll get to them. Once again, all the stuff that we have been dealing with came from American Powertrain, and it's bullshit. This is total bullshit. Do not invest your money into this pile of crap right here, okay? Now, we're going to MDL, alright? MDL is going to be the products that we're going to use this time, and we're going to see how these people produce their action to get everything to work. So I'm going to go ahead and take the transmission off and remove it. Then we'll get the bell housing, remove it, and then we're going to run some tests on the transmission to see if the transmission is faulty, which I don't think it is. I think what the real situation is on this is old school, this is new school. This is hot rod, this is Y2K. Does that make sense? This is muscle car shit. This is high-tech shit. It doesn't match. Now, we've had this engine out of the car now for a month, sitting in this spot right here. The last time that I worked on this engine was actually last fall. No, actually last winter. So the car's been sitting. This is now going, this is September. This is the last time. This is it. So before we go any further, I want to get set up to start working. I had both my knees replaced last year, and they're working beautiful. Everything is working fine, and we're all in conjunction. So I got my knee pads on, and before we start this process, I want to go over the tools that I got here that I had to purchase to do this job. One of them is this tool right here, and they're calling this a dial-in plate. This is a plate that we will bolt to the engine, or actually to the bell housing. Or no, we're going to bolt this to the engine. No, we bolt this to the bell housing. It's such a confusing situation, I can't even explain it properly. Anyway, this is a plate. This is called a dial-in plate that you use, okay? We will use this to dial in the bell housing for our pins, all right, our dowel pins on the engine. And then once we dial in those dowel pins, we will have to replace the dowel pins. So I had to purchase this, and I will probably never ever use it again. All right, this is a tool that will only be a one-time use at my shop. And then I had to get not just one set of pins, I had to go ahead and buy 3 sets. And when I say offset, this is an offset pin that we're going to look at. I don't want to open it because we haven't calculated which one we need. So this is a set of offset dowel pins that will actually correctly put the bell housing within 0.004 of a degree, so the tolerance of the shaft, the pilot shaft of the transmission, will not bind up. So I had to buy 3 of these. So here's one, here's another set right here, and then we got another set right here. So once again, we got 3 sets of these, and they're like within tolerances of each other, but we will be able to tell which one we use after we dial in the bell housing. Now, to dial the bell housing in, all right, we're going to need another tool. And the other tool that I had to purchase, which I will never use again, but then on the other hand, I don't know. Maybe, if this all works out, I might advertise to do this. Who knows, but I doubt it. So the other tool that we need to use is this tool right here. Now what this is a dial indicator, all right? And it's not just a dial indicator, and you can see this, it comes with all this stuff. I had to buy this, I bought it on Amazon. And it also comes with this, which is a magnetic plate. This is a magnetic base that we have got to set up on the engine, so when we got one person turning the engine, the dial indicator will read the tolerance of what's going on, and then that way we can go ahead and be able to dial it in. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Does this make any sense to you at all? So now that we've went over that situation, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start the process of taking the transmission off of the engine. It's going to have to be done sometime. Might as well be done now. So to start off with, you can actually see that my shop is not even really equipped to do this type of work. And we're going to go ahead and go to some backstory action on this. When all this actually started, this restoration started approximately 8 years ago. I wasn't even supposed to do any mechanic work to it because I was actually at my shop in Dallas, Texas. And what happened with that angle is I moved to Moab, Utah in the process of restoring this car because the owner didn't have any money at the time, and I had to put his car on hold. And this is actually one of the jobs that basically woke me up to realize that I can't be everybody's friend that walks into my shop, because being friends with people is in this type of business is a no-no. You can't do it. Everybody wants their cars restored and they want to get involved in this type of work, but then when they get started, they never have any money. That leaves me in a fickle of, okay, I'll be Mr. Nice Guy and I'll store your car for you for 69 years until you decide to get some money, and then I'll be 88 years old when you tell me you want to go ahead and finish the car. Does that make any sense to anybody at all? So by the time I actually do restore the car, I'm not even making any money. We're beyond that. There's no money to be made. So when this started, we actually had Oliver's Automotive that was supposed to do all the mechanic work. I was supposed to do the paint and body only, and then we had an interior shop that was going to do the interior. And here is what you call a piece of shit, people. Okay, this was our fourth attempt, I believe, third attempt. We bought a spacer plate because the transmission was too close to the engine, and we had to have this 1/8" spacer plate. So when we got the spacer plate was not made for this transmission like the people I bought it from claimed it was, and I had to actually cut it in pieces to make it work. Total fucking joke. Total fucking joke. So basically, here we are on the ground, on my knees, doing this job instead of professional. Backyard mechanic work at its best, people. Okay, so we should be able to pull the transmission and separate it from the engine, hopefully. We're going to go ahead and say hopefully, all right? We're doing this by ourselves today. We don't have any help right at this minute. We will have some help later. But let's see if we can get this tranny separated from the engine so we can move on. And here it comes. Just like that. Okay. There you go.